Well, hey there, folks. How's it going? Hopefully, you got everything set. This is the first time with a new mic in the garage, and yeah, I'm hoping it works out. I hope everybody had a good Memorial Day weekend, and thanks to everybody who made that weekend possible. So yeah, it's down to the wire. The kids are out of school now. They're done. They're finished. They're out for the summer, which is great for them. Now we have to figure out what to do with them. That's always going to be fun. I still have 2 weeks left of school. So this week, next week, and actually technically 2 days of the week after. But you know, it's finals. Finals in woodshop is never, let me tell you, it's never stressful. At least not for me. Usually what we do for finals is just clean some stuff up. And I mean, projects are done. What are you going to do? Like build a birdhouse in 2 hours with, 20 kids, 30 kids in the room? Yeah, no, I don't think so. So usually it's just cleaning up and housekeeping and stuff like that. So yeah, washed my hair again today. So it's a little dry. Forgot to put some stuff in it. Anyway, so I got started a little bit late today, and I wanted to talk about that's because I was trying to set things up and get everything set up in the garage. I hope this sounds nice, but I was originally going to talk about something different. I wanted to bust into this new knife that I have. This is a Sloyd knife. It's actually a great starting carving kit for kids. Man, should have put something in my hair today. So shampooed it, and now it's all wanting to flop down. So this is a Sloyd knife. It's a great starter knife for learning to carve. It's actually really good for kids, but we'll talk about this later this week. Maybe tomorrow. We'll see how we feel. But I came out here all set to do a little, teaching myself to carve demonstration. And, I saw some other stuff out here that I really, was kind of, I should talk about this instead. We should do this for class. And what it was is my mom, she had come over for the weekend. She lives over on the East Coast with my brother and sister-in-law and their little baby. So she'd come over to deal with some storage unit stuff to get things set up so that the moving company can come and move all of her stuff cross country. The backstory on that is a couple of years ago, my father, he passed away, and it's my brother lives on the other side of the country. They have a new baby. My mom wanted to get out of the house, and so she ended up selling her house, putting some of her stuff in storage, and then she ended up over there and over on the other side of the country, and bought a house over there. So now she's got to move all her stuff over. So I had hung on to some things. I'd grabbed a few things from my dad's shed, and then my mom had brought some other stuff over that we're going to give to I guess he's my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law's brother. So he's supposed to come down and pick some of this stuff up at some point in the future. So I'm hanging on to it. And then there's a few items that I'm hanging on to just out of sentimental value. Someday I might make a nice display case for it. So what are these items? Some of which we have here on the table. So my dad, his big hobby, the thing that he liked to do, he was an avid bow hunter, and that was his thing. He really enjoyed traditional Native American archery, to the point where he actually liked researching and investigating methods that traditional Native Americans would use to build their bows and arrows and quivers and knives and arrowheads and things like that. And he would actually explore and try some of these primitive archery techniques himself. And I always some of my more interesting memories are of him out in the garage at his workbench, just tinkering away, working at, making devices to, straighten arrows, or putting fletching on arrows, or mixing up hide glue that he had made himself from tendons and hide from animals that he had taken down himself. He was just really interested and invested in that kind of, in that kind of history. And, that sort of thing, I'm not into that. Right. I'm not into the archery. I'm not, I shot bows when I was a kid. We went to archery tournaments, but it's just not something that I don't make bows. I've never made a bow or anything. They're interesting, but I've seen the amount of work and investment that goes into even making a primitive archery tool. And, cause I watched my dad do it, and I'm like, yeah, no, that's not my bag. So, but it's neat stuff to look at. So what are some of the things that he used to do? I have a few of these items here. So, my dad, he would shoot like the fiberglass bows, and, he had plenty of those. In fact, I just gave a bunch to my mom to take back east. And, he would shoot the fiberglass bows, the recurves, but, he was more of a collector of those things. He would put them together and then maybe shoot them at targets or something, and then not do anything with them for a long time. But he really liked doing this traditional stuff. And, he would harvest animal, take down a deer or something. And there's so much stuff that you can do with a deer. You've got the skin for leather. So here I've got this bundle this is some buckskin leather that he made himself. Well, he didn't make the deer himself, but he made the leather from a deer. So this is some actual, it's been sitting around for a while, so it's got like some dirt and stuff on it. But this is some actual buckskin leather that he skinned and tanned himself, using traditional processes. And he would actually use, you can actually use brain. I know it sounds gross, but you can actually use deer brain to help tan the deer skin, the deer leather, and turn it into leather. That's something I'd learned, from watching my dad do it. I was like, where are you taking the brains out? For tanning. You can use the tendons and sinews to make glue, to make hide glue, and scrapings from the skin to make hide glue. Which actually is a traditional woodworking element, before they had all these PVA glues, tight bonds and stuff like that. Yeah, there you go. Before they had that, they made glue out of animal hides, tendons and ligaments, and they boil it down and turn it into this sticky hide glue substance. And woodworkers would use that for woodworking. And hide glue is really interesting because it's reworkable. You can actually heat it up again and separate your parts. So if you need a woodworking joint that's kind of temporary, kind of like semi-permanent, something where you want it solid, but then you want the option to be able to take it apart later for refinishing, like years down the road, you can actually reheat, like with a heat gun or something, you can reheat your hide glue and get it to separate again, which is really fascinating. You can't do that with any of these synthetic glues, the PVA glues and stuff like that. So he would make his own leather. And then he would use that and turn it into, I don't know if it's a deer skin, or it might even be coyote skin. I'm not sure. It's got that same brown. So this is a quiver that he threw together. Very simple, primitive quiver. He's got jute twine, which he probably bought this because it's too nicely woven. He wasn't a weaver or anything, but you've got some jute twine for a a carrying case, or for a, what do you call it? And then there's some, I'm not going to pull these out because they're kind of chewed up, and I'm not sure how how nice they're gonna be when I take them out. But he's got some arrows that he put together himself. He would. I remember a couple times he made his own arrow shafts, but that was always tricky. You know, he would make dowels or sometimes buy dowels because they're just, I mean, let's be honest, they're just straighter. So this one was interesting. I think he made this. I'm not sure if he made this. He definitely had it, but it's definitely some stuff that he would make. This quiver here, now this isn't deer leather. This is just probably regular cowhide leather. But he most likely, because I watched him do stuff like this, he most likely stitched this all together with the leather punches and everything. Just, you know, minimal leather working, strapping it all together. And then he had this knife here. Let's untie it. So this is pretty cool. So we've got an antler handle, and then it's like an arrowhead. It's made of chert, which is a type of, you know, flaky rock, which you would make into arrowheads. And this is wrapped. It's sort of like a little mortise and tenon here, and then wrapped with hide glue and sinew, which is, you know, bound with hide glue and makes a nice solid wrapping, which tightens up as it dries and cures. So you have a skinning knife as part of your quiver here. Just put all that back there. But yeah, you know, this was the kind of thing that he liked to make, and I cannot tie a knot right now. Come on. Mr. Lauer can't tie a knot. I've never been great at knot tying. Let's be honest. That'll do. That'll do. Yeah, so he made stuff like that. And then you got arrows. You got turkey feathers. And let me carefully pull this out here. So what was neat about how he would make arrows is you get your feather, your fletching, and which basically just a feather split in half, and you take two feathers and 2 or 3 feathers. This looks like a 3 fletched. Yeah, so 3 fletching. So you take 1.5 feathers, basically. So 3 feathers would get you 2 arrows. So you split the feather down the middle, and then a little bit of glue to keep it on there, and then tie the ends with some sinew. And then what he would do is sort of angle the arrow, so angle the fletching, so it kind of makes a little curve, like it almost spirals just a little bit around the shaft. And that creates a spinning motion, which helps stabilize the arrow and make it fly straighter. And then for a nock, which is this little notch right here, I don't know if the camera's going to focus on that. The little notch right here, this is called a nock. This is where your bowstring goes into. Pull it back and shoot. And then for the arrows, I remember watching him make so many of these things, so many arrowheads. Like he would buy arrowheads off of eBay. He would make his own. Yeah, thanks, Andrew. I'm just showing off some stuff that my dad made in his life. So this is an obsidian arrowhead. If you know what obsidian is, if you don't know what obsidian is, it's a volcanic glass. And you can find big stones of this stuff just lying around, you know, pretty much all over the place, all over the country. And so you bust up a rock of this stuff, and then it comes off in big flaky chunks. And then you take those chunks and you take like a deer antler or you know, a piece of rock, and you hit it at an angle, and you can chip it very carefully until it makes this razor sharp glass point. You can also do that with other types of rock, like I said, called chert, which is also, you know, it's a flaky rock, kind of like slate almost, but it flakes really well and makes great arrowheads. And this is this is a traditional way that Native Americans used to make arrowheads. And so my dad would explore, how different arrowheads are made. He would learn different tribes, different cultures made their arrowheads slightly differently and for different purposes. So you might have an arrowhead that looks a certain way for taking down a certain type of animal. You might have a bigger head for a larger animal. I don't know all the differences like he did, but and then you can also make other blades and knives, hunting knives and things like the one that I showed you guys. So yeah, he would make this stuff, and he would just on a weekend he would just be sitting out front on the porch just with a piece of leather in his lap and just flint knapping, just chipping away, making some arrowheads. And he'd mess one up and he'd toss it aside and he'd work more on another one. And it's just that's what he liked doing. That's kind of like how I play video games. He would just sit there and make bows. Speaking of bows, so he would make bows. He made a lot of bows. He cataloged some of them. Most of them he just kind of made and set aside. So this is one that he made that's backed with some rattlesnake skin, of course, with a rattlesnake that he chopped its head off himself, because how else are you going to get rid of a rattlesnake? But he was a big fan of using rattlesnake skins in as bow backing. Of course, you need to back a bow with something because that increases the strength. But why not make it look pretty too? And so sometimes he wouldn't make his own bow strings. Well, he sort of would. He would make them from solid waxed string, or he'd wax it himself. But he'd make everything else. So he made this bow out of a big chunk of wood, solid chunk of wood, wrapped it with some leather that he stitched together himself, backed it with some snake skins, probably put on here with some hide glue. And I forgot who he made this for. I can't remember if he made this for my brother or not. My brother didn't want it. So, and then this is a showpiece that I'm just hanging on to. My intent is to make a storage case for it. A little bit of the skin starting to peel up a little bit. But he made a series of bows that he really finished up nicely, and put like a nice coat of something or other on there. So this one, he actually, it's not a signature. He named it. This is called Thule Elk. And this one, he really put a lot into. He wanted to make a few like artistic showpieces. He was an artist. He liked making art pieces. So this one's really interesting. So it's got I believe this is an elk antler rest. So this is where your arrow rests on. So it's got an elk antler rest. It's got some buckskin or doe skin grip. This is a super soft grip. It's really, really soft. This needs to be tied up a little bit more. All held together with hide glue, most likely. Oops, hit my garage there. Some elk antler, forget what you call this. This is for where the string goes, but elk antler tips for the end of the bow. And then this bow itself is made from a wood called Osage orange. And Osage is a really interesting wood. It's one of the best woods in North America for bow making. It was one of the most prized woods. And this man would seek out Osage orange like anytime he could find it. He was trying to snag a piece because he liked making bows out of this. This was one of the most prized bow making woods in North America. It rivaled European ash for bow making, mostly because of its combination of strength and flexibility. Okay, that's really what you want in a bow. You want it to be strong so that you can fire arrows, a great distance without breaking. And you want it to be flexible, for the same reason. You don't want to pull it back and then have it snap on you. So that would definitely not be something that you want. But he made this, and my intent is to make like a nice display case for this and set it somewhere. He made several of these, and there were some when we had his memorial last year. Was it last year? Yeah, last year. He had some that were in various states of having been finished. Some were more finished than others, but we took all of those, and he had all his friends were there, and some family. And so I was put in charge of the bows. So I took all the bows that he had made himself, and I just gave them out to his friends and family. And that was something that everyone seemed to really appreciate, because it was something that he made. He put time and effort into. And, as an artist, whenever you make something, it's kind of like you're putting a little bit of your soul into it. And so in a poetic way, that's a nice way to remember him. So my dad, the archer, the bow maker, made a lot of cool stuff. So yeah, that was what I wanted to show off. Since I had all this stuff in my garage, I don't know how long this is all going to be here until it, moves on to somebody who's actually going to, use it and enjoy it. But I just wanted to show you guys that stuff, the stuff that my dad used to do. So anyway, thanks for watching. I will see you guys next time. All right, today's Tuesday. That means I'll see you guys on Thursday. Peace out.